guys, Hailey Lain aka Key Black here, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Cuff, jumping right back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Once again. So the last chapter I talked about was the Imori and the Evil Dragon cards chapter, which is kind of like a, here's what could have happened if Yugi wasn't the total little sweetheart that he is. This chapter is fun because it kind of revisits something that was introduced much earlier in the manga, where we had previously learned, I skipped over this chapter in one of my off-the-cuff videos, but basically we previously learned that Jonouchi used to be part of a middle school gang, and Hirutani, the leader of that gang, wants to bring Jonouchi back into it by any means possible, including threatening and attacking his friends. Previously, it didn't go so well for them. I mean, Yugi found out, and the other Yugi emerged, challenged them to a game, and electrocuted a lot of them as their penalty game. But this time, they haven't given up, and this time, now that, you know, the secret's out, I love this chapter so much. I previously talked about how much I enjoyed the Jonouchi-centric chapter just before Death Tea, because it feels like I love the horror pacing of Yu-Gi-Oh!, but that one felt like a totally different genre. Like, Jonouchi himself isn't a horror character, he's an action hero, and he's practically like, you know, main character material as well. So this chapter is particularly fun because it's the other Yugi and Jonouchi working together. I think for like the first time in the manga. So that's one of the reasons it's one of my favorite chapters. Another reason is it's also one of the last chapters that we get before the Duelist Kingdom saga, and then from that point on, it's pretty much nothing but duel monsters. So what I love about this chapter so much, the setup is basically that Hirutani and his gang are back. They've used one of Yugi and Jonouchi's classmates to lure them out into a warehouse to basically trap them and once again try to force Jonouchi's hand into rejoining the gang. It's a very, very simple setup, and I think by like page 10, we're already in the thick of it. They get jumped, Jonouchi gets surrounded by, I forgot to mention, these guys are using yo-yos as weapons. I love Takahashi's stuff because he can just do that and it doesn't feel silly, regardless of how silly it may sound for me to say, yeah, dangerous yo-yos, but no, actually, it's really intense and I freaking love it. I don't know how he does it, but anyways, Jonouchi gets surrounded by the goons of Hirutani's gang, basically whipping yo-yos in his face, like threatening that if he takes a single step, he'll get beaten on all sides. And meanwhile, while they've got Jonouchi trapped that way, they grab Yugi and they hang him by his Millennium Puzzle. So, I'm looking at this setup like, okay, this might just be one of my favorite tropes. You know, the heroes are in over their heads, they're kind of getting their asses handed to them. I love this stuff, especially when it comes with stuff like Jonouchi looking Hirutani dead in the eye. There's this fantastic vertical panel that's stuck in my memory. This entire page sticks in my memory. There's this great vertical panel of Jonouchi entering the yo-yo net completely on his own, specifically to go save his little buddy. And he hoists him off the chain. He's still getting beaten on all sides with these yo-yos, and it's like, Jonouchi, goddamn, you are so freaking cool. I love this stuff. The paneling, once again, I commented on this back in the Shadi saga. Takahashi does an incredible job controlling the pacing, and in this particular case, because it feels like there's two different kinds of main characters happening here, it feels like two different comics cutting between each other. When Jonouchi and Yugi launch their counterattack, basically, they split off, the other Yugi emerges, and they split off. The other Yugi takes the majority of the goons and challenges them to his BS game of the week, which is, it's always so much fun seeing what he comes up with. And Jonouchi challenges Hirutani to a one-on-one fight to settle it once and for all. And it's so fantastically well done. There's this great horizontal panel where it's just this quiet glare from Hirutani at Jonouchi, and it enters this really tense kind of standoff as they're sizing each other up, and then it gets into the action. There's this one whiff from Hirutani's punch. There's like a bullet time double panel as we zoom in on Jonouchi smiling at Hirutani realizing, and then Jonouchi pulls his fist back for a punch. Smash cut to what the other Yugi's up to in his game, and then we follow him for a bit with some excellent action panels of his own. I cannot get over how well Takahashi does this stuff. The shape of the panel, the angles, the action lines, it's so good. I don't see this in many other comics. It's just so beautifully done. It feels like watching a movie. And the icing on the cake is that the way that the story unfolds is so satisfying. You know, I've been rooting since the very beginning for like, oh, the big reveal to happen. It happened in Death Tea. How's his relationship gonna develop with the other characters? We haven't really gotten to see that very much because it kind of went back to the other Yugi only emerges when, you know, the bad thing has happened and he's gonna one-shot the villain and then, you know, come back to just being normal Yugi. This time it's like, nope, he's with Jonouchi this time. It's every bit as cool as I was hoping it would be, and yet, amidst all of that, we still get to see how each one of them is amazing in their own right. They kind of get their solos even while they're working together. I love it. Takahashi works this so freaking well. But the chapter basically ends on the other Yugi takes care of most of the goons, and Jonouchi finally defeats Hirutani once and for all in a really awesome climactic victory. Like, it was a pretty knockdown, drag-out fight. They both get their incredible one-liners of the chapters. The other Yugi yells, picture the bunch of the goons falling to the ground as the floor crumbles beneath them. The other Yugi yells, "You don't aim yo-yos at people. You aim them at the ground. Think about that in the hospital." And then Jonouchi manages to knock Hirutani off the ledge. He's dangling by one hand, and Jonouchi pulls out his own yo-yo and says, "Well, Hirutani, you want to see my yo-yo tech since you're there?" And he walks the dog on Hirutani's fingers and sends him over the edge as well. And the whole chapter ends as Jonouchi and Yugi are kind of walking off into the sunset. Jonouchi says something sweet like, "I'm sorry, Yugi, getting you caught up in my problems again." The other Yugi turns to him and says, "Your problems are my problems, Jonouchi." And it's just sweet. It's like, yeah, I got my guys being dudes chapters. I'm pretty satisfied. That was exactly as much fun as I was hoping it was going to be. So guys, I'm gonna cut it off there. Thanks so much for listening and for watching. The next chapter is gonna be a lot of fun because it introduces a certain white-haired Bishi boy of Yu-Gi-Oh! That has been a long time coming. So I will see you in the next Off the Cuff, guys. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Thanks again.